1992 saw the worst drought in Kruger in living memory. The first animals to suffer were the resident hippos. Jürgen watched as the water shrank around them. The last of the muddy water drew many animals to the dam. The only ones not to feel the effects of the drought were the lions. In fact, they thrived. Hanglip's pride had grown into a formidable hunting unit, 28 strong. They needed to hunt every day to keep the pride well fed. During this period, they literally lived around the dam, waiting for an opportunity to strike.
It was a constant game of survival. The prey animals knew that the lions were lying in wait, and they tried their best to counter every ambush.
While the lions thrived in these conditions, the hippos were really suffering. There was not enough water to cover their sensitive skins. Having finished all the grazing closest to the water, they were starving, and some even resorted to eating elephant dung.
I watched as one hippo calf moved away from the herd in search of food. The reaction of the hippos was incredible. The lions seemed as surprised as I was.
Tolerance levels diminished, all fighting for the last remaining drops of water. The dry years and the inferior grazing had weakened these old warriors. And the lions were there, ready to attack at every opportunity. This epic battle between predator and prey lasted for more than 2 hours.
It could have gone either way until the very last moment. I felt sorry for the buffalo. He fought bravely, but he had had a good life. I couldn't help it. My heart was with Hanglip and his pride. I was always amazed by Hanglip's power, but the battle with the old bull took its toll. After this, He could still hunt, but he limped for the rest of his life.
Throughout the drought years in the early 1990s, Hanglip and his pride grew in strength. They thrived when all other animals around them suffered. But then, Jürgen remembers, came a threat that spared no one, not even the lions. This threat was microscopic, a spore-forming bacterium that can live for centuries in soil and bones. It survives in the harshest of conditions. A killer bacterium, anthrax. In 1991, the dry, hot winds of the drought put the habitat and the animals of Kruger under severe stress. The herds churned up dormant anthrax spores. It was a time bomb waiting to explode. The anthrax infected the weakened animals, entering their bodies through wounds and scratches in their mouths caused by feeding on the tough, dried-out vegetation. The animals were desperate. As grazing deteriorated and waterholes dried up, competition for food and water turned into physical battles.
The weakest didn't stand a chance. This zebra was kicked to death by its rival, a victim in the struggle for survival. As the anthrax spread, ulcers became my guide to infected carcasses. I still remember the terrible stench of death.
Park rangers and personnel could do nothing. Although there was a vaccine against anthrax, it was impossible to vaccinate all the animals in the reserve. Teams would follow the vultures to the carcasses. All they could do was to take blood samples to confirm the cause of death. The disease was spreading quickly. Even the largest animals in the park had no defense against the devastating power of the anthrax. With vaccination out of the question, the park officials burnt all the carcasses they could find to curb the spread of the disease. But Kruger is an enormous park with thousands of hectares of remote land. It was impossible to find all the carcasses. The scavengers could smell death miles away. No carcass was left untouched, and slowly these scavengers were infected too. The anthrax bacterium does not die with the animal. The meat remains infected, sure to infect all those who eat it. What seemed like a feast for the scavengers and predators was actually a death warrant.
The anthrax outbreak was a terrible time for me. I saw my friends eating infected carcasses. I knew they might die, but there was nothing I could do to save them.
As the disease developed in the animals, the swelling of their mouths, heads and throats made it more and more difficult for them to breathe. Scratch marks in the ground bore silent witness to the animals' desperate struggle for air during the last moments of life.
I had seen my lions at their peak, at the top of the food chain, but over 2 seasons everything just seemed to fall apart.
Those that were found were put out of their misery by the rangers.
But then, just as I thought all was lost, the rains came, and the drought was broken at last.
Floodwaters, the only force that has the power to stop anthrax, washed the spores downstream and into the sea, where the salt water eventually destroyed the bacteria. Incredibly, not all life was lost. The young and healthy survived. Much was learnt during that anthrax outbreak, and today researchers see anthrax as nature's own culling mechanism. During times of drought, when the animals and their habitat are under severe stress, anthrax cleanses the land of the sick and the weak.
The most important thing for me was that my old friend Henglip had survived, and he was still in charge.
After 10 years of drought, Kruger now started a time of good rains and rebirth. This time of well-being continues even today during Jürgen and Tarina's visit, and the best way to see how well Kruger is doing is from the air.
Nature is fantastic. It recovers so quickly. Not a trace of the dramas that played themselves out here during the drought. The river is full now. Back then, many had stopped flowing.
Good rains mean that there's plenty of grazing, and the impala population flourishes.
People don't take much notice of impalas because there are so many of them. But they are amazing animals, perfectly adapted to their world.
During his 12 years in Kruger, Jürgen was determined to film an impala birth. After many failed attempts, he finally succeeded in following a heavily pregnant female as she distanced herself from the herd.
I really struggled to film this birth because impalas are very cautious and secretive. While I filmed, it reminded me of the birth of my children. Life is the same for all of us.
Impala ewes give birth just after the first rains, but if the rains are late, some people believe that they're able to delay birth for up to a month. This could give their lambs a better chance of survival.
Of all the unique footage that you can shot, I think, to me, the most special one is the one with the impala birth, in that field of flowers. I mean, it's wonderful.
This vulnerable baby with this vast wild wilderness surrounding it and all the dangers in it. I could relate to that, having raised my own children in the same environment. There are dangers everywhere.
That spring was a very prolific time for most of the animals of Kruger. And Jürgen was lucky. Soon after he captured the impala birth on film, he recorded a wildebeest's first moments of life. The difference between the two births is that wildebeest cows stay within the herd, relying on the protection of the group against predators. The herd is constantly on the move, and the mother and the other adults nudge the calf to make it walk as soon as possible. After only 5 minutes, it is ready to move with the herd. Jürgen and Torina relive fond memories, but their visit to Kruger has almost come to an end. Once again, they meet up with Johan.
Hey Jürgen, how are you doing today?
All right, man.
Hi Torina.
Have you seen the lion?
Yes, I did. Nice price of 12. Through the river, 2 k's up the track.
Oh, thanks a lot, man.
Good, enjoy it. Hi Torina. Enjoy.
For one last time, Jürgen and Torina spend a few quiet moments with Kruger's new generation of lions. These seem as healthy as the pride they once knew. The pride led by Hanglip, a fighter, a survivor.
We grew old together here, like 2 old lions. My old friend has gone now. I will never forget him. He survived through drought, injury, and anthrax. I don't know how he died, but I do know that he lived like a true king. I hope his last battle was a good one. During my 12 years in this park, I saw many sides of nature. I saw royal battles, and I saw death in all its forms. But I also saw how wonderful life can be. For a while, the animals in Kruger allowed me into their world. I was a part of it all. I will always be thankful for the opportunity that I had to live my dream. I have to leave now, but a part of me will always be here, living with lions.